Well, before we totally dive into Heartbreakers business, wonderful job on the Chris Hillman record.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I really enjoy it, and I love the journey that it takes us on, through
Yeah.
these different sort of stopping points in all the things he's been involved in.
Yeah, we did a lot of that here.
Yeah, that's what he
and,
said.
And at the clubhouse. But
I'll pop back in like 45 an hour.
That should be good.
Something like
we'll
that?
still be
Oh.
here.
Okay, all right.
That was so much fun. That was really fun. Chris has a really good sense of humor,
Yeah.
and he has a real black humor that I enjoy. And every day was fun.
That's what he said. He said it just kind of, pieces just fell into place, and that there wasn't a whole lot of agonizing over, does this work, does this not work, or how do we fix this, or any of that stuff.
Well, we got it right.
Yeah.
But I would just guide them from the control room, just like I do with the Heartbreakers. But I had the luxury of getting to stay in the control room, which was good. So I could just say, okay, well that's good, but come in here and listen to this, and then you point a few things out, and they go out and make it better, and you just keep calling them back in and saying, I think this part here could be, maybe we don't need it, or maybe we need more. But they were such ridiculously good players, and studio players, like guys that knew how to play in the studio.
Yeah.
And that really made it fun because we didn't have to struggle with anything. I got them to do that Everly Brothers song on their
Yeah, Walk Right Back.
Walk Right Back,
I was going to
because
say, great call on that one.
we were changing something over. There was a break, and him and Herb started to play that song. And I went, wait a minute, why aren't we doing that song?
Yeah.
And they're like, really? Why not? And they said, well, okay. So when we finished up what we were doing, they rehearsed it a few times, and then bang, we cut it, and it came out great.
I think so. That's always been one of my favorite Everly's
Yeah.
numbers. It's just so sweet, so...
Yeah, Everly Swoo.
And looking forward to his Troubadour show coming up here in
Oh yeah,
Couple of
he's
weeks.
gonna play the Herb and Chris at the Troubadour.
and Jorgensen,
Oh really?
who is
George,
this monster.
guy's off the map.
It's not fair.
He's off the map, and guitar's not even his first instrument.
Oh, he's a killer clarinetist.
Yeah, that's where he comes from.
Yeah, I know. It's
But
just not fair.
it isn't. It isn't fair. His touch is so beautiful, It's like people that are always looking at guitars and wanting this. It's not the tool, it's the touch, It's you can buy Pete Townsend's rig, but you're not going to sound like Pete Townsend,
Right.
It's the way you touch it and attack it.
Well, and that solo that he did on that one, I just, made my jaw drop.
Oh, that's amazing.
It was just
I couldn't believe
so
I was
beautiful.
hearing it.
Yeah.
And I encouraged him to go for his solos on the rhythm track, like don't be shy, just go for it. And we can always do it again or fix it or whatever, but he's so instinctive, so good. God, he's good.
And had it been a long time since you had any interactions with Crosby or McGuinn?
Gwen and I, we usually talk, every 6 months or so. McGuinn I know really well. I've known him since the 70s. I've known all of them really a long time, but Roger I know the best. And Chris and I hadn't really... I've known Chris a long time, but we never really spent that kind of quality time together, that we did on the album. But it was so much fun. It was really fun, and fast. You know, we did it pretty fast. I had to get to rehearsal for the tour, so we did it pretty fast. But I think that was actually helped the record.
Mhm.
You know, because
And that got me thinking about just one of the things I wanted to bounce off you here with the whole 40th anniversary tour. I don't know how much, thinking back, reflecting kind of stuff you do, as far as sort of, the watershed moments. The fact that Roger recorded American Girl so early on.
sort of stamped my passport. You
Yeah.
know, I remember Danny Cordell when he told me about that. Roger had done the song. He said, "You just stamped your passport, mate."
That's great. And what other kind of things do come to mind? Are they more sort of, musical moments where everything coalesces for everybody on stage? Was it things like, getting Damn the Torpedoes right and finally getting it out? I mean, what sort of things just do you see as the just cornerstones of the Heartbreakers journey?
Gee, I don't know. It's such a long story, and it's all kind of a blur, but it's breaking in England was really important, and I remember the sheer joy of what that was like, and it was so romantically great, just right up from nowhere to somewhere, and those days, that year 77 is really ingrained in all our brains because everything was new to us, it was all a new experience. And that was really important. And then, I don't know, I suppose, all of that Damn the Torpedoes and all the lawsuit stuff is pretty well documented,
Yeah.
but I don't really think about that much, but that was a great triumphant moment, the Damn the Torpedoes, we had arrived, and there were a lot of, God, it just seemed like something always came along. You don't have to wait long with us, like something will happen. I don't know what it would be, good or bad, but something will happen. But I don't know. I don't really have a standout moment. They just all roll together. The Music Cares thing to me was a big night.
Uh-huh.
That's fairly recent, but that was a night I was really impressed by it all.
It seemed that way. I mean, I was out there, I was watching it go down.
I was taken back by that, like, wow, I did not realize this, in my mind. It was kind of overloaded me with joy, really. Everyone, all those artists, and it was really, really sweet. It was like getting a big hug. But to go through it all, my God, it's like Bogdanovich's film, it's 4 hours long, and that's the first 30 years,
Right.
And that was stuff that he felt had to be in the movie. So there's just so much
Right.
of it. It's been a long, long ride. It's been a lot of work too, and just the songwriting is what if I look back at it, I just think about it. I always had to write another song, I needed another hit song.
Uh-huh.
And in those days, that's how it worked. You brought out a song for the radio, and I got pretty good at that, and I would just always be writing, and it's kind of a lonely work because you just have to keep your pole in the water, you know. So I always had a little routine of going into, you know, whatever room I was using at the time to write in, and just staying in there until I felt like I got a bite. And but I compare it to fishing. It's like there's either a fish in the boat or there's not, you know. Sometimes you come home and you didn't catch anything, and sometimes you caught a huge fish, you know. Sometimes you didn't. But that was the work part of it to me. I mean, it was never work to play live. It was always fairly easy. You know, that's simplifying things a lot, but that part of it didn't seem as, I don't know, it didn't seem as challenging to me as coming up with a song. It's all about songs. And I just remember being excited when I had a song done, and I knew I had a song in my pocket. I always felt really excited about it, you know. And that was good. Going to the studio and hearing a band play it for the first time was always exciting. And usually when they played it, it became something I hadn't even pictured. But I love the studio. I love the studio as much as I do playing live, easily. I'm pretty much in one every day. So I'm still at that. I'm liking production. I did this record for the Shelters,
Right.
this young band, and I'm going to do their next one. I've just found out. And hearing the new stuff is so exciting to me because they've leapt so far forward since the last one, and it brings that back to me of like, oh yes, you grow, you know. And so I guess they've been on the road for a year, and we got together recently and they played me some of their new stuff. I was just blown away, you know. So I'm excited to get in the studio again. And I just have to learn to rest a little bit. Like everyone's telling me I need to stop working for a period of time. It's hard for me not to have, if I don't have a project going, I don't feel like I'm connected to anything. Like I don't even think it's that healthy for me. I like to get out of bed and have a purpose, you know. But I tell you, a lot of people, I mean, I've never seen it written, and it's probably because I didn't mention it. But Tony Dimitriadis, our manager, has played a huge role in this thing. You know, he's not the kind of guy to toot his own horn. You know, and I think he actually believes a manager shouldn't, you know. But he's been there since day one. And without his sort of guidance, I mean, there's a way for him to be, you know, him and I can play good cop, bad cop pretty good. You know, I can be the devil's advocate, and he plays the good guy, but we talk a lot about what not to do, you know, is as important as what to do if you want to have a long career. You don't, one thing we did do that I'm kind of proud of now is we weren't even thinking about getting all the money we could get. You know, that has never been what drove this band. That has never been our objective. You know, we're really happy that we made some and that we were paid fairly, but we could have made a lot more doing things that were uncomfortable, but I think in the long run, we probably made more by being around longer, because I see people make those mistakes and make themselves look, I don't know. I shouldn't criticize other people, but the thing about the Heartbreakers is it's still holy to me. There's a holiness there. If that were to go away, I don't think I would be interested in it. I don't think they would. But we're a real rock and roll band, always have been. And to us, the era I came up in, it was a religion in a way. It was more than commerce. It wasn't about that. It was about something much greater, of actually moving people and changing the world. And I really believed, I still do. I mean, I believed in rock and roll. I believed in it in its purest sense and its purest form. And I watched it commit suicide, I watched it really kill itself over money. And that was painful, because I saw that coming a long time before it happened. I wasn't surprised in the least. I could see what they were doing wrong. But with us, I think we still feel we're on a mission for good. And I'm so touched by, this year has been a wonderful year for us. This has been that big slap on the back we never got. And it's really felt good. Such a wonderful tour. The tour was just an absolutely perfect. You don't do that much in this business, and it was just a perfect endeavor. We just had so much fun, and everything went great, and the crowds were great, and the music was good. The band played well every night, and it's funny because we often fly. We will we'll go to Chicago and do 20 gigs staying in Chicago. We'll just fly out, play the gig, and fly home. So we are flying all the time. Sometimes, and if we don't do that, we're doing wake up, go to the next city, play, and then go to the next city and go to bed. So that's a 3-city day, we call it. But the great thing about being on the plane, like, it's quiet during the day when you're going to the gig. It's pretty quiet on the airplanes, nobody talking much, but after it, everybody's filled with adrenaline, and everybody's on there. The whole plane is just jumping, But we talk, that's when we're actually all in an area together, and we're loose and talking, and it keeps that bond strong, because you have to. You can't live in all different worlds and just walk on stage together and pretend to be an outfit. But I enjoyed it so much, when I think back about it, what I enjoyed the most were the plane rides after the show.
Well, one of the things that came across to me was, I just still feel like you get this enthusiasm, this joy of playing
Sure.
from you guys. you know, and that that doesn't always stay strong over time.
No.
Because all the other stuff, you know, starts to weigh in.
Eat
There
away
are
at it.
bands that we can look at and say, okay, well, they're out there again because, you know, there's a good paycheck in it, or fans just are dying to hear it.
Success is dangerous to longevity. You know, it's just a dangerous thing. It's an overwhelming thing, and used in the wrong way, it's really destructive. But you know, surviving that in our earliest days was, we came out of that pretty lucky, really. We had a lot of good people around us, a lot of good advice, and but it is harder than you don't ever want to be complaining about how hard it is to be successful, you know. But it is hard. It's hard to keep your feet on the ground, to trust people, to not get isolated, you know, because with success and fame, it tends to isolate people. It tends to push you away. You know, you'll go anywhere for privacy or just to feel normal. So I've had to grow up with that and kind of grow up in public, I guess, you know. But very early on, Elliot Roberts, who worked with Tony for about 10 years, I guess, and he had a lot of experience with Neil and Crosby, Stills and Nash and all that,
Right.
and I just saw him at the Bowl the last night we were there, and I love Elliot, but he told me very early on, I think it was before Dan the Torpedoes had come out, and he said, look, like, I got a feeling this record is going to be a big hit, but that doesn't mean that it's good, you know. He said, think about how many things are hits that aren't good, you know. He said, you don't want to get tied up in that. What you want to think about is making good work. And he said, you're going to make a lot of records. And he said, they're not all going to go to the top of the charts, but they can't all be good. And he said, the thing is, worry about the product, not anything else. And over time, that will sustain you. And I thought that made a lot of sense, you know. I was like, yeah. He's like, just do your best every time, and that will sustain you. But don't get caught up in trying to top yourself every time commercially, because nobody does. And I never did. I never did get too worried about that. I always thought we did well enough to make another one.
Well, that's been one of the impressive things about it, is just sort of the sustained quality of the songwriting and music making that you guys have done. And people hit rough patches, especially, you know, when you're looking at it for as long as you guys have been doing this. It's pretty impressive. I don't know, is the Muse something you can, you know, keep in the vicinity somehow, or is it, you know, is it a lot of luck?
Well, it's both. I mean, it's luck, but you have to make the luck. You know, you have to work really hard. And it wasn't work for me because I would have done it anyway. Mm-hmm. You know, I was born with it, and I loved doing it. And that was the biggest part of it. I just had a built-in love of what I was doing. I'd created my own vision of what I wanted to do. I was on a mission, you know. And so I just really went day to day following my nose. Wherever the wind blew us, stylistically or what with the music, we just did it. We weren't thinking. Like somebody was talking to Ben Mott the other day, and I started laughing because they were talking about the music of the '80s, and he said, "I miss the '80s. I was listening to us, you know, like." And I felt the same way. Like I missed it, you know. I was so wrapped up in what we were doing, I didn't really notice anything else, you know. I never really noticed much.
By the way, I had a nice conversation with Ben Mott before I came over here.
Oh yeah.
He said, "Tell Tom, let's get the band back together."
He would too. He'd leave tonight, probably. You know, I love it. It's amazing, you know, that we're still doing it and doing it well.
Well, do you feel like there was always, did you have that attention of kind of knowing, you know, keeping, you know, on track with what your mission was? Because, you know, there can be so many distractions and
Yeah.
forces pulling you this way and that.
You just have to look at it with like, well, that is great, but it's not a priority. You know, the real mission is here, and there's going to be a lot of other things. You know, there's a lot of perks, and there's a lot of negatives, but you just stay focused on the music. Will always. The music isn't gonna, you know, you're not going to fool yourself with the music. It's either good or it's not. You know, you can't go out and play to a big crowd and make them get off. You know, they're only going to get off if it's good and if it's what they want and they're hearing. You know, then that's usually the best review. Is, you know, the applause is like, okay, they're digging this, you know. So I don't know. I just try to please myself, honestly. With the shows, it's intense because I have to, probably like an actor, I have to go into those characters. Every song is like taking on a role. And you count 4 and you go into sort of a trance where the entire world depends on the next note, you know, and then suddenly it's over and you breathe again. And then you count 4 and you're right back in it, you know, and that has you know, that builds as you're going along. It just builds and builds, and the adrenaline builds. It's amazing what you can do. I mean, it takes me till dawn to come down from one of those shows. Mm-hmm. I mean, I really do pace and talk and walk and everything to just kind of bring myself down from it. I mean, I honestly fell before rehearsal started and put a pretty good sized crack in my hip.
Oh,
which hurt like hell, you know. And I did the tour that way, with kind of wondering if it was going to break or not, you know. But the adrenaline, you know, would kind of take the pain away. It didn't bother me on stage, and I knew it wouldn't. It's powerful stuff, and it's real, you know. Like when that musical magic starts, it's real as shit, you know, as it can be. It's not a trick or an illusion. I mean, it's very, very real and so powerful. And we meet people that have come out of comas to the music, or had a miraculous healing of some sort with the music, or it's become, the band is really, it seemed to us like now the band is so much bigger than us as individuals, you know, it's a responsibility almost, you know.
Uh-huh.
I mean, does that make sense? I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think we all look at it, we can all step out of it and look at it and really respect it. And say, okay, that's a really good thing. Let's respect it. But we're also, you know, we're also the same people we were when we were young. You know, I think we're not really a lot different, personality-wise. But we grew up, and that hurts. But you come to find the good things about that, and you come to appreciate the wisdom about, you know, as you grow older and have experience makes you smarter.
Uh-huh.
Hopefully.
Well, Benoit was talking about saying like that he really felt like on this tour. So you know, here we are 4 decades down the line. But he said, I felt like, you know, particularly Mike and I found a deeper place to go this time. As I assume that you know sort of permeates the band when that
It
kind of thing
does.
can happen.
The rhythm section, the Ron and Steve, I mean, the bass and drums, I you know, show me a better a better section than that in rock and roll. That there's not, you know, and it's so important. But they've come up with something. I mean, playing the bass in a big room or a baseball stadium, it's a real trick. You know, it's not easy because you have the sound of the amplifier, you have the sound of the onstage wedges, which they're all so old-fashioned. We still use wires and wedges and all that, and then you have the PA system, which is another huge bass sound, and now they have the subwoofers and all that. And he's got to guide those notes all the way through the show, and he has to decide how long to hold that note, where to clip it off, how hard to hit it, what to bring, you know. And sometimes you're fighting a natural kind of bass feedback that's created by the room. The room creates tones itself, and those tones make notes. So you have to know how to avoid them and get around them. But there's never a moment that they just don't fall down. I mean, the bass and drums, that it just doesn't feel great. You know, it's so, I don't have to dig that out of my rhythm guitar. I don't have to work so hard because they just did it. And, you know, on the melody end of it, yeah, Mike and Ben were really good. Doing some new things, and within those songs there's a lot of room to keep yourself interested.
Mm-hmm.
Thank God.
I talked to Randy Newman recently about his new album that just came out.
Yeah, it's great.
It's killer stuff, but he said, he goes, oh, I was listening to Tom Petty's station the other day, and I'm thinking, these guys are still doing stadiums. He's going, you know, you'd think over the course of my 50 years, just by blind dumb luck, I'd have had more than one hit. But he goes, they have seemed to have figured it out, and I haven't. And that's why they're doing what they're doing.
Well, Randy's so great. Sometimes you're too good for mass success. You know?
I think so, yeah.
I think that's true. I mean, I think you could be so good it's over a lot of people's heads. and you're also not willing to play the game of show business. You're just too real and together to play that game. And that's a fine line, you know, like today I see things that are just appalling. Like I see, like, you can see young bands and they go to a photo shoot and a stylist comes and brings their clothes and dresses them. I mean, we would have laughed ourselves silly at someone even mentioning that, you know, would have just killed us laugh. We'd have never done it, you know. It's like, look, we are what we are, you know. Your music is you. You know, it takes a lot of bands, a lot of musicians, a while to figure that out. But the truth is, what's coming out is who you are, you know, and there's just no separating that, you know. Randy Newman is just like those songs, you know.
Right.
The guy, to me, the times I've worked with him and been with him, that's who he is, and it's true of everyone, really. And you are that music, and you can't pretend and get away with it. But yeah, I think it's amazing. I mean, I credit again Tony Dimitriades a lot. He's kept us on an arena level since 1980.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, who does that? But, and it keeps growing. Why, I don't know. But I'm happy about it, you know, and grateful for it. I'm really happy about the radio station.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
It's
Have it
been-
on one of my go-to buttons.
Yeah.
So I've got the Petty station, the Elvis station, Springsteen, Beatles, Outlaw Country.
Because it doesn't, I play other stuff, you know. I don't want it to just be us all the time, you know. I want to show where we came from,
Right.
you know, and at the same time entertain people, turn people on to stuff. And it's been very successful and beyond my wildest dreams. And I think it has a lot to do, really, in the last few years with, you know, this ridiculous amount of success we're having. But that's fun, you know, and I love doing my Buried Treasure show. And it keeps me listening like I used to. Always listen. I could come home and I would spend the rest of the night just lying on the floor or the sofa listening to albums. I would put them on and they were like watching a movie to me. I don't think young people necessarily have that attitude toward albums anymore. You know, they should, but the technology has just kind of changed. Life itself has changed so much that it's hard to have 30 minutes of attention span from anyone. You know, but I used to, I still do really, but doing the radio show ensures that I'll be sitting there listening. But I loved listening to music years before I played it. And I think I started listening intently at 10 years old. And I didn't get an instrument till I was 14.
Mm-hmm.
So it hadn't even occurred to me that I would play it. Or that I knew the words to hundreds of songs, but I did. I could just call them up from memory. Stan Lynch once asked me he said, do you go home and learn all these songs just so you can freak me out down here, you know? Because, you know, we might do an hour of Elvis at rehearsal, you know, or just coming out of my head, like just remembering all these songs. And I'd say, well, no, I know them, you know, I know them from being a child and soaking it all up so much for no other reason than I liked it. Nobody else did. Yeah. There was nobody else in the 5th grade rocking out, you know.
Well, Mike made a comment the other night too, I think, saying, you know, a lot of the Heartbreakers' journey has been about kind of dreams coming true. That I think for you guys, you know, you've achieved a lot of them. Do you feel like that changes over time or evolves over time? Does the dream become different? Is it you know, always the same thing that you felt when you were 15, or do other things?
That magic is still there that you felt then, but your goals change. You know, it's like, all right, we've done that, now I want to do this, you know, and let's see if we can do this, you know, and you're constantly trying. You're just keeping yourself amused, really. You're just, let's try something we haven't done, you know, let's do something. I mean, I know many times something, we might play something in the studio and say, well, it just sounds too much like us, you know, it sounds like something you would expect from us, and therefore we're not going to do it, you know. And songs get thrown out that way, because it sounds like Damn the Torpedoes, and you'll be like, well, that's not what we're shooting for here. But I just keep myself endlessly amused with sounds and recording. I know so much more, you know, I wish I had known all this when I started out, but then I'll hear our first record and go, man, that's a ballsy record. I mean, like, who else would have gone for sounds like that, you know, like, it's such a unusual little record, you know, and it doesn't sound like anything else. And I don't think that would have come about if we had come down the usual mainstream way of doing it, you know, like Denny Cordell was so smart to just leave us in a studio. I mean, he knew us well enough that we'd want to impress him. You know, so we had to know everything there was to know about it, you know, and how do you do this, how do you do that, and we were behind the board in minutes. And I really studied what the engineers did, what the producers did, like, you know, and I got involved in the record production pretty early on. And I take that real serious. But it's hard to get perfection, you know. I don't think I've walked away ever thinking, that's perfect, you know. Mm-hmm. I do the best I can, but that's what keeps me coming back. Is I want to do something perfect. I think, like, you know, we still make some records to me that are outstanding, you know, like, what's this? Fault Lines from Hypnotic Eye. Uh-huh. That's as good as anything we ever did. I mean, I swear, to me, I can't see any difference between that and any big song we ever had. It's just as good. It's just a different time, you know. But so now we're sort of up against this enormous catalog of songs, you know, ridiculous amount of songs that have been ingrained into people's brains over time, and they're all connected to sentimental reasons or some sort of nostalgia. You know, this is when I first, you know, laid Susie was, you know, that was on. Right. So it's very hard to come out with something new that's going to mean this as much, you know. But I still want to do it because it means something to me.
Well, you sort of answered one of the questions that I had when I was listening to the station over here on the way over. It was the road report, and because there's been, you know, people speculating, oh, last hurrah for the Heartbreakers, and I
Yeah,
like
heard that. Yeah.
I like the way you put it in there, that, you know, maybe nothing quite as expansive, as long and grueling as this one has been, but didn't sound like you were ready to
Why would
hang
we-
anything up yet.
That's what we laugh and say, you know, among ourselves is like, why do they think we would quit? You know? Like, the band is really maybe better than it's ever been. It's like, why would we quit? I mean, if one of us went down, you know, or one of us died, or God forbid, you know, got sick, we're all older now.
Right.
We're, you know, then we'd stop. I think that would be the end of it if someone couldn't do it.
Well, Scott mentioned that. He said, well, you know, who knows what kind of health issues, you know, people may be dealing with now that, you know, we're at
Well, when
this
you
stage of
get
life.
on your backside of the 60s, you know, most people aren't working. But this keeps us young, you know, I think. I think it keeps me young. I mean, when I see people I knew early in life and I run into them now, they're very different than me, you know, and they look different than me. And I think this has kept us all kind of thinking young and feeling young. But it's grueling to do a very, very long one. This was quite a long one, it felt like. And it's sometimes physically hard, but you know, the lights go down, you hear the crowd, and you're all better. You feel like, okay, let's do it.
Was the laryngitis thing spooky at all?
Yeah,
Speaking.
because I don't think I had missed a show in many, many years, and it freaked me out so bad, you know, because it came out of nowhere, and I got bronchitis, which I don't get my doctor was saying, I don't think you've been sick I'm looking at my records, it's over 17 years
Wow.
since I've seen you sick with anything, you know, and I'm always like, I don't get sick, you know, don't worry, I'm not going to catch it, but Ben Mock got bronchitis somehow, and you know, on the plane we're all breathing the same air all the time, and my wife Dana got it, and I was like, I'm not going to get it, don't worry, you know, and then I got it, but I got it on a break, like we had a week off, and I got sick, and in a few days I had kicked it, you know, and I went back out and did some more shows, and then suddenly I came home from, it didn't happen during a show, I came home, I was on a day off, and suddenly I couldn't talk, and I was going, oh shit, you know, this is impossible, this can't be happening. And I did all I could to make it work, but I didn't want to go up there half-assed and do it, you know. And fortunately, we were playing a 3-night stand in Berkeley at the time, and it wasn't hard to move the dates. So we made the dates up really fast, you know, so.
Yeah, no, I went up to the Sacramento show that had been bumped back a week.
Right.
And just for your information, I was talking to somebody at the place I stayed the next morning,
Mm-hmm.
and they said, yeah, we drove up from Orange County last week,
Oh.
before we got
Poor-
the memo.
So sorry.
And I think they said they got as far as Bakersfield and then turned around. But they were happy campers after.
Yeah,
after
the
show.
audiences were great. You're only human, despite all evidence to the contrary. You know, that's what my doctor said. He said, "Well, despite great evidence to the contrary, it seems you're human." But you know, shit happens. You're gonna get that sometimes. But I take care of myself on the road. You know, if you're a singer, you've got to really be responsible. There's a lot of responsibility with that job. You can be a guitar player and be in any shape, you know, but
Or no shape.
yeah, I've seen them in terrible shape, and play great. But if you're going to sing, it's a physical thing. It's athletic. You have to be in shape to do it. So I have to make sure that I get enough sleep and that I eat right and I don't, you know, abuse my voice. Don't talk too much, you know, don't go to the bar, you know, and talk for 3 hours if you have a show the next day, you know. I've learned that's just instinct. That's just built into me from all the years of touring. It's one thing I don't miss. I'm glad. The only one happy thing about being off the road is I don't have to worry about keeping myself ready to go the next day. But it's like I said, it just becomes part of your routine. So you don't worry about it. If you worry about it, you're doing the wrong thing, you know. But you just be sensible. And
are there things that change on that over time? Are there things that get more challenging, vocal range or low notes, high notes?
strangely, I still have I can hit all those notes. You know, I mean, you've seen this play.
Yeah.
I can hit those notes fine. I have a really wide range. And when I was in my 20s, I think I probably sang notes I wouldn't sing today. You know, there's some ridiculously high notes, you know, but, and we did that on purpose. You know, we pitched stuff high because I liked the sound of the Hollies and the Beatles and all, you know, and that's part of how you do that. But thank God I can still do it to some degree, and we play in the original keys. I think almost everything. Maybe one or two songs we've tuned down, but we stay in the original keys really because the guitars sound wrong if we play them in another key.
Right.
That we use open strings and stuff, and it's just almost impossible.
There's just something that character that each key has to it.
And
if you put an E song in C, it's
sometimes not going to work. You know, sometimes
Yeah.
it will, but sometimes it won't. You know, so the band is finicky about doing that.
Well, I talked to George Jones not too long before he died, and he had been going through a laryngitis thing at that point and was kind of coming out and was still going to be doing some shows. And I was asking him, so I said, so those high notes that you get, is that the hard? He goes, no, the low notes, the bass notes are harder. And
Yeah.
he goes, those are the money notes.
The low notes are harder to hear on stage too, because they get lost in the rumble of the room, you know. And our shows, the audience is really loud in our shows. I mean, they play a factor. It factors into the loudness of what you hear on stage. It's very different on stage than it is out front, sonically. So sometimes when you go down low, you're competing with, you know, other sounds that are rumbling around down there, and you want to find the pitch of that note, you know, and it's a little tricky sometimes with the monitors. I think, but with a high note, it cuts through, so you can hear it pretty well. But I haven't had, you know, knock wood, I haven't had any voice problems other than this recent about with laryngitis, but laryngitis is just overuse, and if you stay quiet for a few days and don't talk, it'll go away.
Uh-huh.
You know.
Well, you mentioned, feeling uncomfortable if you don't have a project. Are you taking a little, respite after the close of this one? And
I think so. I mean, I've only just got home. I mean, I got home yesterday. I stayed in a hotel through the last week because I don't like coming home and playing in LA when I'm at home because it feels like the tour stopped and there's so many distractions at home that I don't really feel like the same person when I get there. And it's also a really long drive from Malibu
Right.
to the Hollywood Bowl. So I stayed in town. So I just came back yesterday. So I don't really know I mean, here I am the next day working. So I don't know what I'm going to do exactly. I'm going to take some time off just to clear my head. But I want to work with the shelters, but they have dates. They're on the road, so I don't think they're done until almost December. So I want to do that, and I have a few things I want to do down the road, but I'm not ready to start yet. I've got to deal with this cracked hip right now.
That's one of those things they can't really do a whole lot for, right? I mean, you just take it easy.
I may have to have it replaced.
Surgery?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm not sure, but
Yeah.
we'll see.
Well, I also heard a few rumblings about a Wildflowers 2 project next year, and maybe we can talk about that more in depth at some point. I don't know how solid everything is, but that sounds really.
It's what I would bet we do next.
Mhm.
I wouldn't say it's in stone yet. I wouldn't say it's a go yet, but to me it's attractive because it's not going out and playing the greatest hits.
Mhm.
And and a lot of it would probably be fresh to the older fans, because there will be some songs they haven't heard.
Right.
And there's enough music to where you could do the whole night. You could make a whole concert out of it. I don't want to go play we're going to play this album. Well, we do it. It's over in 30 minutes, and then we're back to,
Yes.
playing hits or whatever. But I think with this, I could find a way to do it that would be interesting. The only thing I haven't straightened out in my head is really what venues to play. What size venues do you want to do this in? Where will it play? I don't think you want to play it in a stadium. And even an arena might be hard. I don't know.
Yeah, it seems like it'd be nice for some, sort of cool vintage 2,000, 3,000 seaters.
That's great. It's really expensive. I mean, playing a 2,000, 3,000 seater for us we're paying for it.
Yeah.
Because, there's a lot of, our expenses are high. But that would be lovely if we could do it in some nice theaters. Or I think in my mind probably wouldn't play more than 2 or 3 cities with it. Just go there, camp out, and let whoever wants to see it come there.
Yeah, the residency thing is a cool way to do some special projects.
Yeah, I don't want to go city to city with it, but I think it could be good, and I think it would be a good way. The challenge of bringing out that second album is letting people understand what it is.
Uh-huh.
I don't want them to think that, this is something they just made, or this is a sequel to, it's something we did at the time. So putting it all together in one show would be a good way to promote the album.
But also the idea that it's part of a sort of larger vision of this thing, rather than we're going to give you all the outtakes.
Yeah, they're not out. I mean, they're quality songs, but yeah, that's likely to happen. I don't know much more than that. What I have to see is, does it make a concert? You know, does it make a good concert? And I won't know that until I can do a little research, till I can try things. If I could get a few of them down to the clubhouse and just try some things out, it'll involve a little bit of homework. But that could be fun. I loved with Mudcrutch, we did a club tour a year or two ago with them, and we played bars, you know, like 1,000 to 2,000, I think, was the limit there.
Mm-hmm.
Because Mudcrutch never earned the right to play in a bigger place than that. But one thing that hit me on that tour was we're playing songs that they do not know, you know, and we're getting away with it. Like, each time a song starts, the audience is listening because they don't know it, you know, and that's really exciting, you know, like, okay, we're going to get something brand new over to these people, and the entire show is going to be that, you know, and when we could pull that off, it was really satisfying. Campbell thinks you can play anything, you know, I mean, we were somewhere, it was Madison Square Garden, I think, like a tour or two back, and he had really hit one over the fence at the Garden, and that's hard to do in New York, you know, to really just knock it out of the park. And we were high on it, you know, like we came back to the hotel really feeling good about that show, and we felt so good that through some miracle, I don't know how it happened, but all of us were in my room, like the whole band was in my room at once talking, and it just doesn't happen that often. And we were playing the next night again, and he said, well, you know, the next show we should just play 20 different songs. And I said, you can't do that, you know, and he was like, why not? I said, trust me, you can't, you know, and he goes, it'll be exactly the same. You just play, just pick 20 different songs. I was like, no, Mike, we can't do that, you know. we God bless him for
Right, yeah, God bless the attitude.
because he would do it. You have to remind people too near the end of the tour, like with him, he's like, don't overplay because you're bored, you know, like don't think, okay, I've done this in so much, I'm going to completely change it, you know, because you were playing that part because that part was the best one, you know. But you can find yourself like exploring a little too much near the end. And I reminded everybody a couple of times that, you know, remember the space, you know, let's not fill up every space. But the communication on stage has never been better. You can really just raise an eyebrow and say so much, you know, and it's unique to have a band that knows each other that long and that well. And I'm just trying to get the best of it I could get out of it, you know, as long as it remains holy.